The Dallas Mavericks have one roster spot open and a couple $1 million that they could use to go out, find a player to round out the roster and get this team ready for the upcoming season. And over the last few weeks, I talked about a few players that I think will be just a great addition to this team. We talked about Marcus Morris, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Dennis Smith Jr., as well as a couple others. But there's one player in particular that's still available that I think will be a perfect fit for this Dallas Mavericks team, and that player would be Gary Trent Jr. from the Toronto Raptors, who is a free agent, as Gary Trent Jr. and the Toronto Raptors have yet to agree to a contract, and from what I'm seeing, he's just not going back to the Raptors. So in this video, we're going to take a look at Gary Trent Jr., what he could provide to a team like the Dallas Mavericks, his strengths, his weaknesses, and whether or not he'd be a good fit. But how's it going, everybody? My name is Marcel Martin. This is Mavs Digest, bringing you the latest news on everything Mavericks related. And before we get started with today's video, 9.2% of you guys watching have that bell turned on. I try to bring you guys content every single day. The last few days have been kind of crazy. But if you want to be up to date on everything Mavericks related and everything that we do, make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss out on a single thing. But like I said in the intro, I think Gary Trent Jr. would be a great pickup to this team. We've seen the Dallas Mavericks take a different turn, a different direction with how we want to build the roster. We saw the trade deadline. We really want to bolster our defense, and we went out and got PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. We saw in the offseason where we got Najee Marshall, we got Quentin Grimes, and Klay Thompson to fix our offensive issues, as well as making sure our defense is still at the level that we had it at. We did lose Derrick Jones Jr., but I believe that Quentin Grimes, as well as Najee Marshall, definitely fixed that issue on the defensive end. But when it comes to Gary Trent Jr., I think what he provides to a team like the Dallas Mavericks would help us out on both sides, the defensive side, of course, but also the offensive side, as he was one of the league's best three-point shooters last year, and not too long ago, he did lead the league in deflections. If we just take a look at his stats, last year wasn't his best year. The Toronto Raptors were going through a rebuild, and Gary Trent Jr. has slowly fallen out of favor with the team as they changed directions. But last year, he did average 13.7 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, 1.7 assists, 0.1 blocks, 1.1 steals, 0.7 turnovers, and 1.4 fouls per game, while shooting 42% from the floor and 39% from three. He is 25 years old, which helps us out very well as he fits that time frame and just the average age of our team. Everyone's around 22 to 25 years old, so that fits perfectly. He does shoot 37% on corner threes, 90% of his threes are assisted, and 53% of all of his shots are threes. So does Gary Trent Jr. fit the Dallas Mavericks? I think so. If we're trying to fix our three-point shooting, why not get somebody who is a three-point shooter, who does try on the defensive end? Like I said, over the last few seasons, he was one of the league's best players when it came to deflections and steals. I think it's a good pick. It helps our defense. It helps our offense. It's just another option. It would be using our 15th roster spot, and I know our rotations are, for the most part, pretty set right now. Does he crack the rotation? Does he get minutes over Najee Marshall, over Quentin Grimes? Does he impede on the improvement and the continued development of a Jaden Hardy or even an Omax? That's up to Jason Kidd and the front office to decide. But if we just want another option, whether we do play him or not, I think Gary Trent Jr. would be a pretty good pickup. If we take a look here, the reports of Gary Trent Jr. with the Toronto Raptors, it goes as follows. After multiple unsuccessful negotiations with Gary Trent Jr., the Toronto Raptors appear prepared to move on from the guard later this week, with one source saying he would be lucky to make the mid-level exception. Multiple league sources believe the Raptors are prepared to move on from the 25-year-old guard. Per a source, the Raptors were willing to bring the sharpshooter back at an annual salary of around $15 million when the negotiation window opened last month. But Trent's camp was looking for a raise on the $18.5 million he made last season. Something in the $25 million range was believed to be the ask. Now, with the market drying up, one league insider suggested Trent would be lucky to get the mid-level exception valued at $12.5 million. A few reports have linked him to the Lakers, where it's possible he could only earn half of that. So a player like Gary Trent Jr., who, like I said, his defense is solid. It may not be the best on the team, but there is defense there. And with our system and how we play, that's something that could improve. Defense is something that can easily be fixed. It is the majority of just your effort and how much you want to try on defense, in which Gary Trent Jr. has been able to show that he is willing to just commit to defense. But his offense is there. And I mean, half of the mid-level exception, $13 million, giving him just a very small contract. I'm totally fine with that. I think that's very cheap. I'm sorry. That would be good production on a very cheap contract that could actually work out for the Dallas Mavericks. And again, whether or not we play him that much, whether or not he gets minutes, whether or not he does crack a rotation, he does get put into maybe the starting lineup, maybe even just come off the bench, I think it would be a good shot. Why not go after someone like Gary Trent Jr.? But As we continue, Gary Trent Jr. led the NBA in wide open three-point percent this season, 51.3% on wide open threes. As we all know, the Dallas Mavericks, we can get anyone open. We already know that Klay Thompson is going to just feast off all those wide open threes. And if we get someone like Gary Trent Jr. who shot 51% on wide open threes, that's not that bad. That's a weapon that I think we could actually use. And he did that on 228 three-point attempts. He also shot 27% on all other three-point attempts on 225 attempts. The largest split of any player in the league between wide open and contested threes, disproportionately valuable for an offense that generates open looks. So with Gary Trent Jr., it's kind of a twofold thing. Yes, he shoots very well in the open threes, which is great because we saw guys in the playoffs and the finals who just couldn't hit their open threes. However, if it's a contested three or any other three that's not a wide open three, the percent drops drastically, just by half almost. So there is some good with the bad there, but could that be fixed in our system? Could he work better? Could he look better in our system? I think so. Playing alongside Kyrie Irving, playing alongside Luka Doncic as well as Klay Thompson, the offense of those three guys, they're going to generate a lot of looks as far as for the other players. We also have to understand that Kyrie Irving and Luka and Klay Thompson are going to get a lot of attention on defense. The other team is going to want to make sure those guys are locked down. You can't leave any of those three open. And if we get someone like if we get someone like a Gary Trent Jr. who can shoot 51% on wide open threes, that's just even better. We don't have to worry about him shooting contested threes. We don't have to worry about him being heavily guarded. We know Luka is one of the most blitz players in the league. Why not? And it's an up and down. But that 27% isn't that nice. Hopefully, if we were to go after someone like Gary Trent Jr., would that improve? I'd like to think so. But could we live and die by that? We did live and die by Tim Hardaway Jr.'s threes over the last few seasons, so why not go after someone like Gary Trent Jr., who would be a lot cheaper than the 3 years, $50 million that he just got? Why not, right? But as we continue, this was from just a few years ago when Nick Nurse was still the head coach of the Toronto Raptors. Michael Grain saying, I asked Nick Nurse about Gary Trent Jr.'s deflections being down year over year. It was 3.4 last year, 2.4 so far this season. It's clearly been a point of discussion, though allowed that some injury issues might be a factor. Disappointing is disappointing. I like to get him a lot more aggressive on defense this year. I would say that's been a little bit of negative because he's capable of really getting after the ball and getting his hands on the ball a lot, and that's what we want him to do. We're going to get him his shots and get him his points, but we want him to be a disruptor. He kind of fits us if he does that, and if he doesn't fit us. We need him to get back. And again, some of that is he just hasn't felt at all that great physically for a lot of games this year. So hopefully he's getting there where he's going to feel good here starting tomorrow. So obviously when Nick Nurse was there, it was really just get with it or get going. And if you've been following the Toronto Raptors, I know some of you may not. I have followed the Toronto Raptors over the last few years. That Gary Trent Jr. didn't really have the best relationship with Nick Nurse. And since he left, Gary Trent Jr. felt that maybe he can reinvent himself with the Raptors, do a bit more. But like I said in the intro, the Toronto Raptors have gone through a complete rebuild. They traded away OG Anunoby. They traded away Pascal Siakam, Precious Achiuwa. So the team has obviously shifted their focus to a younger core to move forward with Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickley. And with a couple other young guys, they had about 3 or 4 draft picks this past draft. That Gary Trent Jr. may be the odd man out as they continue to go younger. They push out that window of being able to compete even further. And as we've seen just a few years ago, Gary Trent Jr. was known for his defense, leading the league in deflections. He had 3.4 a game just a few years ago, and it did go down year over year. He dealt with a few injuries, not really injury prone, but they were kind of just popping up, just small nagging injuries. But from everything that I've seen, Gary Trent Jr., when he's capable and when he commits to defense, he could be a very good defending guard, a very good 3-and-D guy for any team, and especially for the Dallas Mavericks. His three-point shot is there. His defense, when healthy and when he's committing to it, is there. But unfortunately, it does look like the Dallas Mavericks don't really have that much of a pull for Gary Trent Jr., as Gary Trent Jr. is expected to pick between the Philadelphia 76ers and New York Knicks. Sources tell Bucket Access. Trent Jr. and his agent at Clutch Sports are looking for a 1-year deal. So, like I said earlier, Gary Trent Jr. isn't getting anywhere near the 3-year, $50 million contract that he's coming off of. He is with Clutch Sports, and if there's one thing that we learned all summer about Clutch Sports is that they will overvalue their players to the point where you don't have a contract and you're going to take whatever you can get. It looks like he may have to get the mid-level exception or even smaller than that, just whatever team can give him, hoping to build up his value to then the following year hopefully get a bigger contract. And if he is going to the New York Knicks, I'm not too sure how much they could offer. They just gave Jalen Brunson a pretty good contract. They gave OG a big contract. They traded all those draft picks to get Mikal Bridges. And as far as the 76ers go, like I said, him and Nick Nurse didn't really get along in Toronto. It was a very weird vibe over there. So would he actually want to go back to Philly where he's then under Nick Nurse again, and knowing that he's on a very small contract? Would he even crack the rotation? Would he be at the end of the bench? He would be there with Kyle Lowry, who he did play with briefly in Toronto. So maybe that could work out. But you guys let me know down in the comment section down below. Do you think that Gary Trent Jr. will be a player worth going after if we could just throw him literally any contract, just knowing that he could be here for at least a year? He would obviously want more money in the following year. But let me know what you guys think. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for making this far into the video. Make sure you check out our Twitter and Discord. Links in the description below. Consider becoming a channel member. We are doing another giveaway. The winner will be announced the first week of August. And until next time, y'all take care. Drink water. Peace.